So my name is Brad Dyer. I got involved in what ultimately became called the One American to Another Hurricane Relief Convoy. It's kind of funny how it happened on a Sunday afternoon. I was thinking about what am I going to do for this hurricane stuff. And I got a text message from Kristen Chapman. She had said, "Hey, can you help my husband Joel?" I had never met Joel, didn't know who he was. After a great conversation with Joel, I learned about what he wanted to do, and I said, sure, I would love to do that. Where do you want to go with this? And I said, look, we can blow this up and we can make this a pretty big effort and raise some money and get some attention, the media and all that. And he thought about it over the night and called me the next day, Joel did, and said, yeah, let's make this thing as big as we can and help as many people as we can. And so we went to work and ultimately, of course, ended up in Western North Carolina down in Spruce Pines.
Well, my name is Joel Chapman, and this here is Chris Pete.
How we found out about the need, you would have had to have had your head in the sand if you didn't know that there was a pretty significant need down there.
So the hurricane makes the news, and you're like, oh, it's another hurricane. Let's hope people don't get messed up too bad. That hurricane was, no pun intended, a disaster.
I had some friends that I work with that lived in the Boone area, and after the hurricane I was checking in and they just pretty much said, well, almost everything's been destroyed in the surrounding area and people are in a bad way.
But when we got down towards Spruce Pines, it was weird because you could see the creek which flowed along the road, right? And you could see the creek blew up and it blew off the backs of buildings and swept buildings away, and on the other side it destroyed a lot of things, and it was very evident in that town area. But then you would drive a little further and it was kind of like being in the old port in Portland and everybody's out eating, and you went like a couple miles.
The landslides just destroyed infrastructure at a very significant scale. Power lines, poles, roads, houses. They weren't just damaged, they no longer existed in certain places.
I mean, we showed up 2 weeks after the hurricane hit, so the waters had subsided, but when you would drive down the street, you could see on the uphill side of telephone poles and things beside the road, you could just see the debris built up 8-10 feet high.
Clothing up in the tops of trees. And it's like, how did that get there?
The people of Mossbrook were super supportive. Jess was really flexible about sending updates on the list of things that were most needed.
To be honest with you, it was pretty easy to gather them.
Yes.
Because people were just incredibly generous and incredibly responsive to the call for donations.
It's real easy to say, hey, we'll collect some things. And then it became like, what do we collect? What you realized is that the need sometimes changed day to day. There were so many donations that we had to make some judgment about what we could physically bring inside of this very giant trailer that Chris had, this 30-foot behemoth of a trailer that he hauls a plane in, and the 12-foot by 8-foot trailer that we had, and the truck bed, and Chris's truck bed, and the other guys that traveled down. The hard part, if there was a hard part, wasn't getting things. It was getting right things, and then how do you carry all of it? That was the real challenge.
The people from Mossbrook did a fantastic job. Everything we got from the people here was clean and fresh. It was incredible, especially the ladies that put the quilts together and put the Bibles with them, and even saw people's clothes that I know they'd probably taken right off their hanger that they would normally wear. That was the level of sacrifice and generosity, and it was really humbling. We brought a lot of winter gear down, camping gear, tarps for people to cover over their roofs, and generators, and one of the big requests was heaters, propane heaters, things that people could use without electricity indoors. I want to say people donated probably close to $30,000 worth of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, let alone cash. That's a whole separate thing. But it was probably anywhere 9,000 to 10,000 pounds of donated material. Each morning there was a meeting of basically all the groups that were staying at this farm. Started with a devotion, which was awesome. We would receive our commander's intent from this gentleman, Alan Phillips. So tasks were assigned based on the abilities of the groups that were there. So after those tasks were assigned, we'd go out and complete those tasks. Come back the end of the day. At 8 o'clock at night, there'd be another meeting where we'd kind of close the loop on the tasks that were accomplished for that day, as well as bring back any additional information that we'd received by being out there and formulate a plan for the next day.
One of the blessings of the way God orchestrated stuff for us is we really didn't know what to expect or who to link up with once we got down there, so we're kind of flying in the dark there a little bit. This farm that we showed up at, Alan Phillips' place, this man had already networked the whole area, sent his guys out on ATVs and dirt bikes and figured out where the greatest needs were, and they had a big whiteboard outside the farmhouse with a list of people and what they needed. I've been doing a lot of arborist work in the area here, so I brought a bunch of rigging and chainsaws, and they completely capitalized on that, and we stayed quite busy from dawn to dusk.
Joel is an arborist by trade. Cuts trees, climbs trees, is an expert at that. My son Jesse, who went down, is a logger. He's a trained logger. So their purpose was to cut trees and clear up the widowmakers and just the very dangerous tree situations that existed. Because beyond the hurricane, in this very hilly territory we were in, were many tornadoes. And the tornadoes would take trees that were this big. My arms probably aren't even on camera, but gigantic trees. And it just twists those trees right up and laid them everywhere. We helped in many ways, from handing out aid to cutting trees to going on different missions, very military-based group we were with. My help came in the form of probably asking the right questions, because people will come up and maybe they're there just to mooch and take, and the ones who had the biggest need would seemingly ask for the least, or they'd be asking for somebody else, but you know well that they lost something. I think it was asking the right questions. And then maybe it's the media around it. Got us on the radio, podcast, a pretty good podcast. I think maybe I'm a mouthpiece. So that's what I did. I talked.
Honestly, I think one of the big things that we did, probably one that had the biggest impact, was, you talk to people down there, and as soon as anyone talks to Joel, they know, you're not from around here. And so they'd be like, where are you from? Maine. They're processing like, well, what county is that? Where is that? No, the state of Maine. Really? You guys came all the way down from there? And to see the look in their eyes when they realized that people from that far away showed up to, quite frankly, just shoulder the load with them, that was pretty cool.
I think from a church perspective, it would be really cool to put together a group of plumbers and electricians and carpenters and coordinate going to some of these areas that were completely designated, or picking a specific one and coordinating with a church in the area, picking a specific project, rebuilding a widow lady's house or something along those lines. So that's kind of the way things are moving as we go into the future, is the rebuilding effort.
How can the church help in the future? Money in the hands of good stewards. And I would say within this church that Joel and Chris seem like good stewards. God's not oblivious to what's needed. Pray that they all just find their way, that they don't get lost in the sadness that they're experiencing, and they're going to experience more. So pray for the individuals that they find their way.
A lot of these people have not only lost their families, obviously we can be praying for the orphans, that they would find, good homes and good families. Praying for them to be able to find new jobs or figure out where they're going to move. I think sometimes it's hard to imagine a landslide coming in, taking everything that you ever had, plus all your documents that proved that you had a house or property or a car or whatever, and have all of it down in the bottom of Lake Lures. So
A lot of people lost loved ones. I know one family, I think, lost 11 members of their family. When I say lost, I mean there's no bodies. Praying that these people can get closure in a spirit-filled, healthy way, I think would be good. You want to go back?
I would love to go back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys
Hit it out of
are
the park.
awesome. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. Just left fully supported both physically and spiritually. It means a lot to be part of this body.